think that the loss of U.S. leadership on this is a terrible outcome, and I think it does matter that the U.S. has pulled out and is pulling out not only of the Paris Agreement but also walking back from the leadership role it's played in this area and many and others as well. So I want to just be clear about that, and I do agree that with that statement and Amar's earlier, that the U.S. was very active in helping pull together, not on its own, but in conjunction with a lot of other partners, pulling together the coalition to make Paris happen. And part of that was demonstrating leadership at home and making sure that we were doing the job that we knew we had to do to reach the goals that would support the outcomes of Paris. That said, it's been notable, and I think to some degree heartening, noticing the reaction, as Amar mentioned, Samantha mentioned, the reaction to the announcement. Sometimes we don't really understand what we have until it's taken away from us, and so I think people were kind of looking at that possibility of losing the consensus and the momentum that Paris had generated, and thinking, wow, we are on a different page now than we were 10 years ago and 5 years ago even. And this particular agreement gives us the mechanism and the path forward, whether it's here in the US or in other countries, to get to those kinds of outcomes that we all know we need to get to, that the science supports and that we know we want to go for. So the strong statements of support, understanding that still there is action yet to be taken to implement that support, those statements were notable because it was the case that even around the negotiation of Paris depends on a cycle of positive actions, of countries looking around, seeing that there's actions here, there's actions there, and so we will also act. There was concern that the loss of a major player like the United States might sort of bring everything crashing down. And I think what we're seeing right now is actually quite the opposite. It's not only not crashing down, but it actually seems to be strengthening the resolve of the remaining parties.
And forgive me for interrupting, but how long do you see that lasting? Is that tenuous, or is that
so to get to, I guess this is getting to your question now. How long does it, so fair point. How long does it last? So I think that partly because these nationally determined contributions were thought about at the national level, and because the momentum of Paris has created the consensus that these goals are in fact important and essential. I see that the reiteration of those has been clear, and I believe that the continuation of those policies is likely to happen because in many countries it still makes sense to do them, right? That we are in a different world than we were 5 years ago, not only because Paris is a different architecture, not only because the science is different, not only because we have a sort of stronger global consensus around it, but because the energy markets are completely different than they were 10 years ago. The costs for renewable energy, for example, have dropped dramatically. Solar dropped something like 60% in the last 7 years, wind 40%, LEDs something like 90%, and electric vehicles are on the cusp of widespread distribution. And I know we don't want to get into that question right now, but the point is that ambition is possible now, and it is possible in a way that we didn't think was likely even 5 years ago. What that means is that countries see that future as part of their economy. It's not just sort of an addition that you kind of add on like a sort of extra frosting on your economy. It's part of your economy, and they see that there is economic growth and jobs that would flow from that.